All right. So today, and as always, guys, we could do Q&A here in just a tiny bit. If you guys have anything on your mind that you want to bounce off of me, I'm happy to jump into that. What I wanted to go over today, I like to try to just keep everybody up to speed with, HighLevel is always making like micro changes, as you guys know, to pretty much every feature. And it's interesting because sometimes we all explore features together. For example, this last week we looked at the HighLevel's kind of community feature, and we talked about some of the things that maybe are good about it and some of the areas where it's a little maybe underdeveloped. Or not underdeveloped, it's just early stage. It's probably a better way of putting it. And a few months ago, I think it was probably a few months ago now, we looked at the HighLevel's conversational AI. Forget when they launched that, probably like a week or so after they launched it, we looked at it and did kind of the same thing. We crunched it open and tried to kind of see, okay, like what's practical about this right now? What can we use right now? What can't we use right now? All that kind of stuff. And since we've done that, they've added a few things. Since that last training, they've added a few things to the conversational AI piece that I think are important. And so I wanted to show you guys kind of what's going on in that, just in case you haven't seen, and give you a few also. I figured that we could even kind of do some of this together briefly. So I'll share my screen real quick here, and we'll go into HighLevel. And so here we are inside HighLevel. We're in a sub account. We're in the settings of a sub account. And so if you, within your settings, if you go to conversation AI, that's where you can kind of get this screen right here. And just as like a recap of for anybody who hasn't seen the announcements about this or watched the previous training where we kind of started off on this, HighLevel's intention, with this tool is to eventually, to some degree, be able to function autonomously in the sense that, it could actually like auto reply to emails or texts. Right now, it's just available on only the SMS channel. And you guys will notice there's essentially two preferences here, just an off and a suggestive. But HighLevel is running a private beta right now where there's a third option here, which is, that like the bot can actually respond in real time to things coming in on the SMS channel. And they have that closed off. For most of us, there's just a few folks in the beta, bigger agencies and stuff that they wanted to kind of test that feature with. So right now, if you have it set to suggestive mode, all this means is whenever you are in the conversation manager, just to kind of show you what I mean. So if we go to conversations and we go to like an SMS conversation here, let's see if we'll look for I don't know why it looks like we're landline. I was like, we have an A2P approval here, so what's going on? And I'm looking for just one here that had a recent reply from a customer. I guess I could see if unread contains any. Here we go. All right. So if we click in here, this is the AI, right? Giving us some suggestions for how we could reply. And that is all this feature is doing right now. But I feel like right now, like without doing anything out of the box, without training the AI at all, if you just go in and turn on this feature, and you look at these suggestions, like they're not going to be very high in fidelity. They're not going to be that great out of the box. This is just because the AI needs some more information, to present you with something that's valuable. Now you might think to yourself, well, I mean, this is cool, having suggestions, but that's like every app does that, and like, what's the point of this and why do I even care, and I totally understand that. But what I'm looking at this as right now with the suggestions is, if the AI can't get the suggestions right at the end of the day, like any conversational AI is going to be using a predictive text engine. So like if you guys think about Google, when you go to Google and you start typing in something and Google's like, oh, you might want to Google this, you might want to Google that, and it's happening in like a split second. That's a prediction engine really similar to, how like a ChatGPT works or something like that. And so this prediction engine, like how accurate this is right now and the suggestions that's giving us gives us a good inclination as to like, well, if I was to just set this AI free, like if HighLevel turns this feature on tomorrow, and allows me to go in here and actually automatically send messages back to people, and you start looking at some of these messages that it's suggesting, it's like, well, I definitely would not want them to do that right now. I would not want to turn that on right now because it would be a complete disaster, because it has no idea what it's talking about yet. And so now, before HighLevel turns that feature on, in my opinion, is a really excellent time to start dialing this in. If you're in Conversation Manager a lot and you're looking at these suggestions, you can kind of use that as a little bit of a gauge for yourself as to like, okay, like how well can this actually operate on its own if I wasn't in the mix, Now, who knows if people will ever want to completely set it free anyways, but at least, having that confidence that if you wanted to, you could potentially offload this to an AI. And especially if it's like, you can start to get it to the point where the AI is actually making suggestions that are sort of articulated better than you would actually, you or your salespeople would actually do it themselves. That's when you like, it's like, okay, gold bars, baby, So anyway, that's like kind of the back context. So if you go back to settings to the conversational AI, HighLevel has this thing they're doing now called a bot trial. And this is like a little feature up here. You can click, bot settings, and you have bot trial. And for the bot trial, like if you come in here and you start talking to it like a customer would, if a customer was to like float into your world, and start asking you questions and stuff like that, you can start acting like a customer. And you can see like how, with its current level of training data, how well it performs. And it's interesting. So before you even start like interacting with it like that though, because you're going to notice the responses are just trash, before you do anything, you want to come in here in the bot settings and you want to scroll down a little bit. And since this is an appointment booking objective, AI objective, what it's trying to do is book an appointment. There's, I think it sounds like other objectives that are going to be made available in the future other than appointment booking. But for now we have appointment booking. So you need to select a calendar that you want to integrate in HighLevel for the appointment booking. And then once you've done that, now is where you can go in and kind of like do a few of these things. So for example, we have this conversational flow, and I'm just going to hover my mouse over this and read it for you guys real quick. But it says, if no questions are added below, the bot follows a standard set of questions. Question 1, do you require the services offered by Midwest Fencing Company? Question 2, do you require these services in the locations my business operates in? Do you wish to book an appointment? So like, obviously these questions are like super basic, right? And a little like, this is a fencing company. So like some of those questions are going to come across as like a little weird. And so we want to sort of add some questions here that the AI can ask. And this is where you kind of start having to rack your brain a little bit, like, okay, so for me and myself, feeling a little bit lazy, I didn't even feel like really thinking about all that stuff. So I just went over the ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT, right? And so I just said, I own and operate a fencing company that focuses on new construction fencing. So I just gave ChatGPT some background, and I said, ultimately, we'd like to book an estimate. So I'm telling ChatGPT like that's our objective. And then I said I'm training a GPT-based conversation AI bot with the objective of booking these estimate appointments. I need a list of questions to provide the bot, as well as preconditions for the bot to send a link to book the appointment. So kind of told ChatGPT what I was asking for. And it gave me some suggested questions here. And these are pretty good, you know. You might not want to use all of them, but I figured for this example we could like we could get into some of this. But so one they said is, what's your preferred method of contact, email or phone? Probably not going to ask that one, but what type of fencing services are you interested in? That could be a good one. So if we go back here, we can put this, inject this question in there, and then we can add another one. So let's go back. Let's see here. Can you briefly describe your project? It's a pretty good one.
We're on a spirit.
Yeah, and then what else we got? Do you have a preference or any preference for the material to be used? That one is typically not really that important to know before like an estimate appointment. Is that you, Nick? I might have, oh, you're already muted. Okay. Okay. So we don't really need to know what the material type is before we come out for the estimate. Don't really need to know the length and height. We're going to do that when we do the estimate. This could be good. Is this for a residential or commercial property? And so let's punch that one in. And then let's see. Ooh, this is great. Do you have a timeline in mind? There's some additional ones that ChatGPT didn't give us that I know would be good is will you be present on the property during the estimate?
So in terms of adding these, in a particular flow, which makes sense when you've got a conversational bot, it makes total sense if you're letting the bot loose by itself, like you say, you're kind of preparing for that day. In the meantime, is it using this conversation flow in the conversations area where it's coming up with the 3 options? Like, is this area here being utilized in that conversation suggestion box, or where is this utilized?
Yeah, so my understanding is like if we were to go to the bot trial right now and we were to start like having a conversation back and forth, you know, what it gives us as kind of like its response to like whatever we said next would essentially be like what would pop up in the recommendation engine, like when you're interacting via SMS. And so that's, I guess, the way that you can kind of like tie them together. So because the suggestion engine will be very contextual to like what was said the last few times, like in the message thread. So like, I think the whole point of this is like trying to
it kind of answers what's in the conversation or addresses what's in the previous conversation thread, but tries to move the dialogue along.
Yeah, exactly. To get
move
like
to the next topic. Yeah.
Yeah. And now this might be a train wreck when we try this in a second. But we'll see, you know, like this is the thought here. But and then the last thing is customize bot responses. So like the way I'm looking at this is kind of like our knowledge base, so to speak. Now there is include FAQs to train the bot to handle missing information. So it's like,
well, I think this is the knowledge base, not the other thing.
Yeah,
the other thing is a conversation flow. This is the knowledge
correct.
base.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had it backwards. Yeah. So And I think this flow, if we mapped this flow onto like an objective continuum, like I don't think the flow that I just put in is very good. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, we'd probably want to have like these be, I don't know if they are, I would imagine these are
reorder those?
top down priority also, you know?
I was about to say, can you reorder those? Because it doesn't seem like it flows, obviously. Will you be present is not the first question you want to ask.
Exactly. In fact, here, let's just, and I can't, it looks like, oh, I can add another one. It looked like a second ago, like I couldn't. But let's actually just, to your point, I think you're right. I think our fidelity is going to be low unless we like really, and it's probably better to even have just a few and then like completely fill it up.
I've certainly used for the bot responses. Those are questions that customers are asking of us or of our business, and so I've, as an example, I've gone and used a third-party product. I pointed at a website, customer website, and I actually get it, and it builds an AI model, what they call an embedding. And then you just go and ask that whatever questions you want, and it's processing. The first one I did, I pointed it at the high-level support forums, and so I could ask it any question. So I point my customer's website at it, and then I go and ask, say, hey, based on what you know about the customer, aka via its website, whatever else, build me some FAQ for that customer, and then I'd load them in these bot responses. Or whereas the conversation flow, which I have not used, I see that as kind of guiding the objective, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I'm looking at it as well. So I'm trying to think about the orientation of this conversation, and I mean, normally it's like, yeah, like tell us a little bit more about what you're trying to do. What's the time frame? Because it's like, should we come out this week, right? Like, do we need to sort of like figure out how to make it out there in 2 days? Because they're like, oh, I gotta move, at the end of this week. Or is it like we can wait a couple weeks for the estimate? So I think these two are probably good. And beyond that, I mean, that's probably a good starting place.
Well,
Let me see what.
the one you mentioned about, are you going to be there? That might be an important question to get an idea to feed off there, or is that too deep?
That's a good question. Like, because we could technically gather that when we send the link to the calendar booking, like on that form, we could include like, hey, are you planning on being there? Da, 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 da. So some of this information we need to gather, we could sort of backload. But I do want to know that for sure, one way or the other. All right. Let's just start with those two, but we do have some knowledge-based stuff in here we can do. Let's see, service type specified, scope understood. Here, and I think we have like a queue, yeah, question, answer. So we're gonna tell ChatGPT. Restructure section to act as a question and answer knowledge base, add any additional items to this knowledge base that you think would be good for this industry. All right, let's see what it does here. Dun, dun, dun. Ooh, gotta love ChatGPT. What determines if a customer is ready to receive a booking link? Customers deemed ready to receive a booking link when they meet the following conditions. I don't know if this is gonna work. maybe. Here, we're gonna stop generating for a sec. We're gonna say, give me a list of common questions and answers for this industry that may occur in conversation prior to a customer booking an estimate. See what it does here. There we go. That's more what I'm looking for. All right, what types of fencing materials do you offer? Do. We're just gonna copy in. That's kind of like word for word right now. Right, how long does it usually take for a fencing project? That's solid. Do you provide warranties? That's pretty good. All things someone might ask before they're interested in having someone come out for an estimate. The warranty one's a little but this one's definitely getting asked. Do you handle fence repairs as well? I'm gonna leave out the permit one for now, although people would ask that, but not typically before an estimate. Let's see, how do you handle uneven terrain? How much does a standard fence cost? Yeah, that might be asked. All right, that's probably good for now, just as like a baseline for us here. All right. Let's go to the bot trial. So normally we have a workflow that runs after someone opts in from a contact form that says something along the lines of, hey, it looks like you reached out to us on our website. Would you like an estimate? Are you interested in an estimate? And a lot of times people will reply and they'll say, thank you for reaching out. I am interested in an estimate. And then that's where the conversation kind of starts. So AI bot says, sure, I'd be happy to provide you with the estimate. Before we proceed, could you please let me know if you have a time frame in mind? See? All right, all right. All right, AI. Yes. I am hoping to do this project sometime this fall. Great, fall is a good time for a fencing project. Could you please let me know what type of fence you would be interested in? Vinyl fence, but I need a metal gate. Thank you for providing the details. We offer vinyl fencing options and can certainly install a metal gate for you. Would you like to schedule an appointment for an estimate? That felt a little mechanical there at the end. So, there's some tweaking, but this is like going much better than the first time through with no training.
Ask about the warranty.
Oh, good call. Yeah. Nice. So it said, yes, we offer warranties on fencing. The specific warranty options depends on the materials you choose. We can discuss the details during the estimate appointment. Would you like to schedule an appointment? So yeah, so some of this, it's like some of this still feels like mechanical to me, but this is first pass through. So I'm just gonna say yes. We'll see what it does here.
Sounds like a good salesperson to me that knows how to stay on track.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Answer
true.
the question, go back to
It's
the objective.
I've noted that as well, actually, when I was playing with a bot, and it just, I was asking lots of questions, and it just kept wanting to make a booking. It was just like,
Yep.
I'd answer the question and go, "Would you like to make a booking?" And then I'd ask a different question, and they're like, "Do you want to make a booking?" I was like,
Can you
I
change
know
the
that-
wording? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, can you train this to change the wording so that as opposed to coming, it says details during the estimate appointment, and then it goes and talks about scheduling an appointment. Well, if you change it like would you like to set up a no cost or a free assessment or estimate? You know what I mean? So it's not always using the same terms. Can you educate the bot to do that?
That's the conversation flow.
Yeah, we might be able to do something in the conversation flow here. Let's see, like after response to customer. I don't know exactly like how they're ingesting the information I'm putting in here with
You don't
respect to the
prompt it.
specific. You can't prompt it.
No. So what it's going to do is it takes the conversation flow. And so these are all potential qualifying questions before it gives a link. And based on the conversation, it will find the one, or it will meld one or two of them together to best fit the actual conversation flow. Because even though you may have 4 or 5 options in there, depending on how the conversation has been going thus far, there may be 1 or 2 that are, if you kind of put them together, they'd be a good response to how that conversation has been flowing. And so that's what it'll do. It's using the combined data of the conversation flow, just like in the Q&A. It's taking bits and pieces from each part and putting it together so that it sounds, or it may take the tail end of it or the beginning of it to make it sound in context. Because if it just went in and just asked those 2 questions exactly how they are, that may work for 60, 70, maybe 80% of the conversations. The problem is if there's contextual elements around it, it may not be able to use the whole entire sentence. So it may take the back half of it and use that as its ask before it sends the appointment link. So you don't prompt it. You just give it more. The more you give it, the better it'll be as far as the conversation flow and also the responses. So, which I put screenshot, I put it in Facebook and I put it in the chat here. The conversation flow I have from my agency and the Q&As. So I've got like 6 or 7 in the conversation flow. I only have 2 words remaining in my training, so I've used as much as I can.
And how does it work? Like, how are you finding it?
Oh, it works beautifully. Yeah. I can't wait for full auto to come out.
If somebody wants an appointment specifically though, like does it force each of these stages? Like, do they have to answer every single one of those questions before they can book?
No.
If they say, I want a booking now, it's go, wait, I got some more questions for you. No, I want to book now. Oh, wait, I've got.
No, it's the conversation flow is, think of it as other ways to possibly get positive or negative intent.
Right.
So you're throwing, instead of, because when this first came out, it was awful. Every single time it would just send out an appointment booking link. It's like, well, we don't even know if they want to book an appointment. Like,
Exactly.
It's great that you're sticking to that objective, but good Lord, like that even makes a car salesman look good. So they solved that
Put
with
the
the
car salesman to shame.
Yeah. So they solved that with the conversation flow. They're like, okay, we need to take it. We want to send them the booking link, but we understand that sometimes if you have a realtor that only deals in commercial space, they could at one, their conversation flow questions, are you looking for commercial properties? And if they say no, it's not going to send them the link because it's not a qualified opportunity. You don't want that appointment.
Book a link anyway.
So that's the whole premise behind the conversation flow is like, okay, what questions do we need to ask to make sure that we're actually getting the right people into this appointment booking instead of just sending everybody a link and just, potentially loading up a calendar with a bunch of useless appointments.
Very
That makes sense.
Yeah.
just for everybody, and I actually learned this from Charles, the using GPT and the web pilot plugin, because you can actually point it at a website, so you can give it a prompt. And so what I said before, where I said I train an embedding, you don't need to do that. What I put in the chat window was if you're paying $20 for OpenAI's ChatGPT Plus, you can add plugins, and the web pilot plugin, I just did it for a local plumber, and it came up with actual answers. Like it builds the FAQ out, and it gives all the answers for that it found on that customer's website, all the specifics, and then it came up with a bunch of questions that said, but put in brackets, answers still need to be provided. I didn't find the answers on the customer's website, but these are typical FAQs that it thinks should be included. And I limited it to 20, but you can do it. But that was handy for coming up with the FAQ.
Yeah, and like when full auto comes out, they have said that when full auto comes out, which the new date is supposed to be this week, fingers crossed. When full auto comes out, they are going to have a spot to put your website. So it will actually go scrape your website, use that information in combination with the FAQ section to provide answers and responses through the conversation AI tool.
I wonder, because I've been wondering how they're going to handle this. I don't know if you've seen anything on this, Charles, but so like if you're running an objective, so like appointment booking objective, for example, do you know how they have it dialed in right now to basically run an objective and then like discontinue that objective once it's been achieved? Meaning, like if an appointment actually gets booked, I would assume that you're like removed from that flow, and it's in which case we could obviously pick them up by a workflow, with a workflow or something on the tail end of that.
So I think
I was
that's
just
going to
wondering
come
if you've seen
down
anything on that.
to, yeah, from what I understand, when it goes full auto, you're going to be because one of the biggest problems with a lot of conversational AI is that once it starts, how do you stop it if need be? Because there's going to be circumstances where you need to take a realtor that I had a call with earlier today. He's like, that's really awesome. But he said, what if I just got a listing and the bot, is responding, but I just want to send them this message? Well, you'll be able to actually jump in. The system will see if you manually send them a message, it will pause conversation AI for 30 minutes, basically giving you enough time to engage with that customer without the conversation AI talking over you. Because there's a big problem with a lot of fully automated is that you have this machine going and then you're trying to jump in the middle and provide super relevant information. And it's like you get two people talking to the same contact.
Yeah.
So they have set it up to where it will auto pause and you can manually go in and just pause the conversation bot until you want to turn it back on. So if you're in a extended conversation from the contact conversation screen, you'll be able to actually pause the bot. So that way you don't have to worry about it jumping back on and then you can resume it. In the case that you're talking about, so I think about it like this. If I had someone go to my website or go to my Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and they start inquiring about Pinnacle, go through all the Q&As, they book an appointment. The next day they have more questions. I still want them to go back into that appointment. Now, when it comes to, will it book another appointment? They haven't said anything about that. I haven't seen or heard anything about it. If there's an existing future
Yeah.
appointment, will this happen? But I would say
Or
that
or objective switching for that matter, you know, because that's also one of the really hard things with
I see
conversational
it
AI
coming
is
down to
like,
goals. I see them utilizing either the goal action kind of in relevance to this with workflows and the conversation AI using that goal action to push them out of something, but I'm sure it'll come. I know it was supposed to release 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and it got pushed
Yeah.
back.
we
Which is
probably need it to be able to pause till workflows are done too, if you think about it, you know, because we also don't
Yeah.
want our workflows running on top of it.
well, yeah,
So that's another.
that's the big thing. Before you turn it on, you're gonna, like myself, before I turn it on, I'm gonna have to go into all my autoresponders that are set up on my Facebook and Instagram and Google My Business and turn them all off. Put them in drafts because conversation AI is going to be taking over that. So yeah, I mean, it's
But what about the scenario where, you know, someone's interacting with the bot and we're not monitoring it real time, right? Because
Mhm.
we're off doing whatever we're doing. And then, you know, the bot's trying to book and maybe it's not exactly what the objective of the person on the other end of the chat bot is. The real person doesn't necessarily, the system wants to book an appointment, but they don't really want to book an appointment yet, right? They're just inquiring of stuff. So it would seem to me, you know, and then you're going to come back at this conversation, you know, a half a day later or 3 hours later or 4 hours later. It's like, I would think you'd need some way to like hit a button and say, I need a human interaction here or something, like, and just have it stop and then notify a human being to jump on the call or something, jump on the
well,
chat.
and I think that's where you have to look at. So I look at that more from the communication channel itself. So like for myself, I won't turn it on SMS. At least not at first. Now, will I turn it on for Facebook, Instagram, Google My Business, web chat? Absolutely. Because they're going there simply asking questions. And it will sit there, even though it's asking if they want to schedule an appointment, they can continue to ask questions and it will keep answering those questions. It's not going to stop answering questions, but it is objective based. It is going to keep asking for that appointment, which any salesperson, which is basically what this thing is a virtual salesperson. If they're worth their salt, they would be doing the same thing. Great. Here's your answer. Now, would you like to book an appointment? Because we know that's where the sale happens. And that's why
a real person though, they might you know, there's a bit of a trying to figure out how to even articulate it, but there's a bit of like an intuitive sort of like bulking of, so like someone might ask, you know, 3 questions or 4 questions and you might carry on with conversation for a little bit, and then you're sort of like, as a salesperson, you're sort of waiting for the lull, you know, where it's like, are they done, you know, like asking questions, and then it's like, all right, now how about the appointment now, you know, type of thing. And so it feels a little, to your point, it feels a little unnatural that it inquires so heavily on every single reply. Which,
and I know
maybe
they are going
you
to come
know,
out with other objectives.
That
So
yeah, that was my
they're
next
going to come
question.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've already announced that they are going to have other objectives besides scheduling an appointment. So it could be
Yeah.
visiting a landing page, filling out a form or survey. There's other things that are going to, I'm sure, e-commerce, you know, as they're launching e-commerce, they're probably going to play this into the e-commerce aspect that's going to be launching over the next sometime this quarter. You know, so there's definitely going to be other objectives, but the primary objective of any business for the most part is appointments. So that's it. I mean, it's natural for them to start there as the number one objective to start with.
I think it depends what vertical, right? If you're like in retail, someone's going to come into, they're not necessarily booking an appointment. What are your hours? Do you
Right.
have men's shirts in stock? What size, what size do you go
Yeah.
up to? That
Well,
kind
and
of
that's part of the the full auto. So
Yeah.
it will be able to look at, one of the examples that Sean gives is the auto dealer. Once you hook up that website and it's able to actually actively scrape the website in full auto mode, you'll be able to ask, hey, do you have this available? And if it can find it on your website, it'll give them the answer.
You know how that would work in a scenario where there's an external database of, let's say, the vehicle inventory, right? It's not embedded on a page. It's only, that page
it's
is
not
only
gonna work.
created based on the search, right? So
Well,
the results page is not going to be there unless someone puts in the criteria what they're looking for. But there's nothing to scrape to say I have this car in stock at that point, because it's not, the database isn't live. It's just,
it
it's
is.
sitting, well,
It is. There's a VDP for every single vehicle in the database. Promise you.
okay. Interesting. No, it's interesting
That-
stuff. There's no question. It's cool.
What was that? What were you referring to there? A what for every single one? Just a slug or something?
Vehicle display
Yeah.
page.
Yeah. VDP, vehicle display page. So like if
Okay.
you go to any
So a unique-
dealer of any kind,
Mhm.
auto dealer, truck dealer, every vehicle that they have in inventory has a vehicle details page created for it. That's where the VIN number, miles, photos, if available, as soon as it hits the inventory,
Yeah.
that VDP is automatically created.
A unique page.
Yep. And then you have the vehicle's listing page, which is where the search results are.
And I'm just dealing with that at the moment because, as you know, Charles, I signed up my local chamber of commerce, and I'm building a directory page with all the businesses in the city in it, right? And I put an AI bot on the ChatHQ widget over the whole directory, and when I go, hey, go and refresh the content, it look, says 10 more people have actually created listings. I've obviously got to go and retrain the bots with those 10 new listings on it, and then they can just go, hey, what are the hours for this company, and that kind of stuff. So very similar. I'm glad that the listing tool that I've got,
well,
is not,
and that
super
brings up
dynamic.
an
It
interesting
has a
point.
plug page for every business.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point, and I don't know how they're going to do this. Me personally, I would much rather be able to upload a sitemap, give it a sitemap URL, than just say, hey, here's my web address, here's my homepage, get pinnacle.ai, scrape as far as you can, because we all know how web scrapers, sometimes they work good, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they find the pages, sometimes they don't. So I don't know if you're going to be able to, hopefully when they release this, you'll be able to actually point it to your sitemap, and that way it knows what pages are there, and it can effectively scrape all those pages, and it'll update, maybe every 24 hours or 48 hours.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I built the directory on WordPress, the directory app, and then used the Yoast SEO sitemap creator, and just told it to refresh every time there was a new directory listing. And that way, then I just point the bot at the sitemap, and away it goes.
Maybe you could send an RSS feed if a new entry is created to tell the bot to train, pull that data or something like that.
Yeah. And then the service I'm using doesn't have an API for retraining. That would be good. I'd trigger a workflow and tell it to retrain, but it doesn't quite have that. But anyway,
Speaking of which, I hope HighLevel exposes an endpoint for this, because that's really what we actually need, even more than a web scraper.
And so I've
because
been
as
trying
long
to
as
figure out, so I've been trying to figure out the objective switching, because I've got this generic bot that's not in HighLevel. It's, it's actually a widget on a website, and I'm trying to hand that off to a booking bot so that they can ask any question of any business, but then when they're on a particular business, that they can, I can switch the bot into a mode to book for that particular business. I haven't figured that out. Still working on it.
typically that architecture is like, people have been experimenting with all different sorts of things, but like a basic architecture there would be like system level prompting that can objective switch So like part of the objective, but the meta objective essentially is to like reanalyze the objective on every single new input. So like every single time there's a new message, it asks itself like, are we still on an appointment booking objective, or are we now switching to like another objective? And that one seems like it can function with a degree of accuracy, although the most effective ones seem as though they have a meta layer listening service running like in parallel with the conversation. So basically you have one LLM that's like in charge of responding based on that objective, and another one that's listening to the conversation the whole time and like reanalyzing the objective as it moves on. And so it's like Big Brother can come in and like intercede, if the objective starts changing, type of deal.
Yeah.
Which that one is really interesting to me. It'd be cool if they did something like that, but we'll see.
What if could you ask the question and have AI pick up the objective from the response of the question? How can we help you today? Right? Are you
Not
here
for
for
what-
a point?
For what Jay's doing,
Yeah.
the switching is the hardest part for Jay,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's now, I think the only way that you could effectively do it is use and this would only be once HighLevel's fully automated chat comes out.
Yeah.
You would have to have a sub account for each business that's in the directory, and then use the web chat form engagement widget and add all the locations to that one chat form. And that way, when they go to the chat form, they could have a drop down to where they could pick the business that they want to interact with. How it would end up working is that once they fill out that contact form, okay, so name, phone number, email, and message, that will interact with the fully AI conversation in HighLevel.
Yeah.
But for the accounts that haven't paid you the premium,
That's
you
exactly
could
right.
just
Well,
have an email go out with the message.
right. Well,
Look,
I'm not.
Here's what you get. If you don't pay me anything
That's
because
it.
of what I've done, I
That's
will
it.
take the message and I will email it to you. If you pay me X amount of dollars, I will take that message and I will run with it with conversation AI and get you an actual appointment on your calendar, and you don't have to do anything.
That's the upsell on the directory, basically.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yes. Yep. That's how I would do it.
What if you, not in Jay's case, but I mean, what if your business or your customer's business wasn't necessarily appointment based? Can you still just have the bot just answer the standard questions without having to constantly prompt for the appointment?
Not until there's another objective. It has to be objective. They're
So
only
default,
building it.
it's a default to go to appointment. That's the
The
objective.
only objective you can have that's like kind of not an objective, well, it's still an objective, but like for example, ChatGPT's like meta layer objective is to basically just continue the conversation. And so that's why ChatGPT always seems like really chatty, like chatty Cathy. And so if you pull that objective out and put another objective in, the problem is like with the whole objective switching thing is like to a certain extent, like you do want like a friendly level of like chattiness. It's like after you book an appointment, you kind of want to be like, thanks, we got your request, like kind of like that's that extra part of like being the hyper focus on an objective is what can make it feel really inhumane.
Right.
But then that requires switching it over to like a chat based objective. And maybe that is the right move. But I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Thinking out loud. So.
And Jay, I'll show you what I was, and this is, anybody that's going to be managing chat, or whether it's conversation AI or what Jay is doing, where he's worked out this deal with the Chamber of Commerce, and he's offering everybody this contact form basically, and for an upsell you get much more additional stuff. But I'll show you, this is what I would do in your case, is create one widget, which you already have, and just add every location to that one. one web chat. And so when they come in here, this is what they'll see. So if I add multiple businesses in here,
Right.
when they go into that engagement widget, that conversion tool, they will see all the listings and they can search for their listing.
Yep.
And then, so if this person isn't paying a premium, the workflow, you just have one workflow that says when web chat form is submitted, send internal notification email to the client. But
Yeah.
if it is, once they roll out automated, this will be an incoming active channel because it's SMS. So this comes in as an SMS message, which would activate the conversation AI for the premium accounts that you're dealing with. But that way you could just have,
Surely HighLevel will open up conversation AI once auto comes out, like actually through the web, the HighLevel native web.
I think
so
that's
they'll
like
be
utility
offering
as
that
well.
later. Yeah. So they are
Oh,
going
okay.
to, yeah, the live chat. I imagine them incorporating it. I'm sure what will happen is full auto will come out sometime this quarter. Live chat will come out. And then probably fourth quarter, you'll see the two start to come together, which to me makes sense. I would much rather run them separate for a while, make sure they're both good on their own, and then try to, okay, now how can we incorporate conversation AI into the live chat model now that we've had this out for at least a couple of weeks and we've got some bugs worked out? That's how I see it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of alternatives to the objective-based built-in bot, and one of the things. So hey, so those suggestions aren't on mobile, are they?
No.
No.
My
You know,
customer
I
I
actually
say
don't know.
that, but
Oh,
I'm
this-
not 100% sure.
Is this on mobile? Or I'm like, I don't think so. I didn't see it.
I'm gonna look.
But there's a couple of bots. The guys from GHL Freaks released a video about a month and a half ago, and it was how they used workflows and some custom values. The custom values were the FAQ. They essentially put the FAQ into a custom value, and then they had a workflow that was auto-responding to customers on whatever channel based on the FAQ. And so Pat, I think Pat Freed or whatever his name is, had that. And it's very similar to how Capri AI do it. The GHL Freaks one, you can be a little more chatty. You can control your own objectives because you control the prompt that's going out to the bot. It can still send there's a point at which it will still send a booking URL. So Capri AI, which is very similar, they have a Google Sheet. It's got all the FAQ in it. They also have kind of a booking objective within their system. That booking objective, there's a point though, I guess the point here, there's a point at which within the workflow that Capri they have a kill switch. And basically, if you start asking the bot questions that it can't answer, it stops. It notifies a human inside the sublocation, the sub account, to say, hey, you need to jump on this conversation I've been having. I've stopped conversing with them. The bot, has issued its own kill switch to be able to hand over to somebody. I noticed that when I was talking to Capri, got a couple of auto responses, and then big gap in the delay for getting a response. And then something that sounded a little more human-like. The main difference as well between the internal booking and what Pat Freed, they were just like, hey, ultimately they're just going to give the booking URL out. The Capri guys, they have some API level access to where the bot conversely does the booking and makes the booking for you. Doesn't send you a booking link, goes, would 3 o'clock be okay? Good, yeah, I'll book you in, and then does the booking. So who knows how all of those third-party workaround hacks are going to evolve, when the native stuff finally comes out.
That would make a ton of sense. I've actually been kind of confused about that because, HighLevel has obviously been using Eliza for a while in the on the workflow side for the appointment booking bot, like in the workflow, which Eliza has. They don't call it Eliza anymore, but Eliza has the capacity to, you know, index the calendar availability directly, and do that exact thing where it's like, hey, you know, 7 p.m. work for you, whatever.
Right.
And so it's been a bit odd on the conversational AI side that they haven't yet worked those in together, such that like the appointment objective conversational AI bot, you know, wouldn't like be able to do the same thing. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Where
Yeah.
is the light? I'd heard about it. Is it part of the top tier, or is it an add-on that you have to pay for, or is it gone?
So you do have to be in the 497 plan.
You have to before you can add it on, or
So
is
it comes
included?
with your, so the AI booking bot is what they call it now. It used to be called the Eliza booking bot.
Yeah.
But it's in workflows and it's an action. So if you're on the SaaS plan, you can access it, but only on the 497 plan. They don't offer it. They may offer it on the 297 now. I know they didn't. So they may have changed it since they're kind of putting it to the back burner. But I know it's on 497 plans, and it's called the AI booking bot. And basically it runs off of Sediment. And the problem is that Sediment isn't always accurate. You know, and
Once
so
it once it gets into the booking mechanics though, it does a really good job.
it does. Yeah.
It'd be nice if they could have the sort of what they've built right now for the conversational AI handle like the whole front portion of that conversation, and then once
Hand it
you know
over.
you've crossed the threshold, yeah, like because it is it feels a lot more human being able to ask some like
Step by step.
sending someone a booking link is kind of a, you know, I don't know, even among all of us who are marketers, you know, it's like all of us have our booking calendars, you know, but you have those friends, right, where you're just like, I'm not going to send them the link, you know, I'm just going to go check my calendar and tell them like when my
send
availability
everybody
is,
the
because I'm
link.
going
Yep.
to
Look,
mean,
either book on my
I
calendar
prefer
or
sending the link. Okay.
yeah. I'm like, look, I'm lazy and you need to fill out all the information. So here's my link. Go fill out your own information. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
They
especially
may
like
incorporate it down the road. I mean, the one thing you have to keep in mind with all the stuff that they come out with is you have to keep in mind how they build. They always start with a skateboard, then they go to a bicycle, then they go to a car. So none of this stuff is outside the realm of possibility natively within HighLevel. And the fact that, you know, they're filing patents, you know, I mean, would not surprise me at all that the AI booking bot goes away, but some of the database structure of it is pulled into the conversational AI. Wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. Will it be this year?
Yeah,
Probably
same.
not. They got bigger fish to fry. I think this year when it comes to the AI side, you know, we got AI funnels coming out, AI websites coming out. I mean, it's crazy.
How many of you guys are going to level up? Who's going to level up?
Not me.
You're not going?
No.
Shoot. All right.
No,
I'm
I
going.
Nope.
went to the podcasting on demand session, where I got my hat. Nick was there, but I didn't actually catch up with you, Nick. But anyway,
We didn't catch up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. And I thought about it afterwards when I was leaving. I was like, oh man, because I see you on these calls all the time.
Yeah, I didn't see you,
yeah.
Jay. I was there too.
I did not see you at all.
Yeah.
Did you see my
I got to
son?
run,
Yeah,
guys.
Charles.
Take
See you,
care.
Yeah,
Charles.
I'm going to run as well.
See you, Charles.
It was a good weekend. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, shoot, I
It
hope
was
I see one of
definitely
you
good.
guys out there
I'll see
next month.
you.
So I
I'll
was
see
just
you. I'm
curious.
going.
All right,
I'm going.
sweet.
I'm going.
All right, you got one question, Rob, before you shut it down?
Yeah, a little bit off topic of this AI conversation here, but yeah, a couple of quick ones.
with regards to workflows, in terms of appointment, I'm just gonna share my screen. Actually, in terms of event type for appointments, right? You have an option here for what is new versus confirmed? Just like what exactly is the difference between these two?
So on high level calendars, there is a setting that is by default set to basically auto mark new appointments as confirmed appointments. So that's like enabled by default. But if you disable that on the calendar, then there is a difference between like new appointments and confirmed appointments. New appointments act in that scenario like more like an appointment request. And so you know, this application would be used like more regularly in like you know, like let's say like the medical niche or something like that, where somebody's like, yeah, like I'm trying to book an appointment, you know, for like 4 p.m. to have my back adjusted, you know, but you don't have like, you know, access to the actual calendar at like the chiropractor level, for example. So like there has to be like a manual kind of like reconciliation of the calendar. That's just one example. And so in that instance, you know, people will request an appointment, and if it's available, it'll get, you know, manually confirmed. Another case
Gotcha.
where people will do it is like, you know, if there's preconditions, meaning like, hey, you have an appointment scheduled, but there's like some homework that you have to do before the appointment. And once that's done, then your appointment's confirmed. That's another scenario where like again, in the chiropractic industry, there's some appointments that require, you know, like blood work or something beforehand. It's like, if you don't have the blood work, we can't do your appointment. So after you send us the blood work, then we confirm the appointment, like things like that. But you have to disable that on the calendar, the auto confirm, if you want to utilize the new attribute in the list there.
I see. Okay, so it's yeah, essentially for taking in requests. So that makes perfect sense. Cool. Now, apart from this, just a couple of other questions. Stop share. So in terms of, you know how when you go to your business profile, you have the check marks where basically you have like the email unsubscribe link that you can kind of turn on natively by default, right? And then also the reply stop for SMS messages for A2P compliance and all that. Now, in terms of the native email unsubscribe, when you check that box, like is there anything else that's needed in terms of a workflow or setting up anything to actually have, you know, a user unsubscribe when they hit that link in an email that you send out to them? Or is it just like by default, it automatically turns on DND for that contact when you have it on, just by simply checking that checkbox?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, because there's been all sorts of changes that HighLevel's made to this particular thing in the last few months, but I think the current state of affairs is if you check that box and they hit that link, yeah, I believe that it goes through. So if you're using LC email, you know, which is Mailgun, you know, behind the scenes, HighLevels just has you know, their master Mailgun account. And you know, so an unsubscribe gets fed all the way through that like pipeline into Mailgun, you know, where like they're actually unsubscribed, like on the Mailgun side of the equation. And that is a huge hassle because, you know, like if you have SMS, right? If somebody hard opts out on SMS, like with a stop, technically they can, you know, they can type start and send you another message with start, that will get them back into the loop. Once someone's like had a hard email unsubscribe event, it's much harder to like get that DND cleared on the Mailgun side of the equation. and we have problems with this all the time. Like at Extendly, if someone happens to unsubscribe, like from a marketing email or something like that, and then we want to send them an email, you know, when they buy something, and none of the emails are going through, so they're not getting any of the delivery, and they've been D&D'd on Mailgun, like it's virtually impossible to get them re-enabled. And so it's better if you, this is my personal opinion, it's better to manage unsubscribe events manually. And when I say manually, I mean disabling their automatic feature, use a trigger link for unsubscribe events, you know, resolve them as like D&D on the email channel inside of HighLevel, and do whatever other logic you need to do, you know. But then later on, you can just, if you need to send them an email, you can just switch their D&D switch off, and it's all in HighLevel, and there's no problem. And it's also then not triggering like Mailgun does like email complaints, you know, is what they call them. So unsubscribe events like marked as spam, or unsubscribe events, a spam event is an email complaint, like those all, you get dinged for all that stuff. And since HighLevel's managing all the email now, you know, and they have their seasoning domains and they're doing all this stuff, like HighLevel's managing most of that on their side. So your account gets, you know, de-incentivized on like on the good servers and all that, you know, if you're having those type of events come in, you can hide those events off in a corner to a certain extent if you're managing all of the unsubscribes yourself. That's a long-winded way of answering that question, but yeah.
No, I appreciate that info. Okay, so you're saying that when you have that box checked, you know, natively or by default, that it will actually disable sending email from the Mailgun level. So if you want to send them an email afterwards, it's practically impossible if they try to resubscribe to.
Yeah, it seems really challenging. The way you have to do it is like you have to go into the contact and turn off the D&D, and then you have to manually send them an email right there before you leave that view. And it's a little intermittent whether the emails will actually go through, but that's the only way that we've found to get like an email that was D&D'd that then got un-D&D'd for those settings to stick, is to manually send an email out. Even after you turn off D&D, like every workflow will continue to error out on sending the emails until you went in there and manually switched off D&D and manually sent an email. And even then, it seems like a little intermittent. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so natively it does work though. Like, but just by having that check enabled, obviously it throws the trigger link, I guess, in there, and then it does just unsubscribe them.
Yeah, it just uses like HighLevel's like native wiring for all of that, and yeah, it'll still unsubscribe them and stuff like that. So.
Got it. Okay, cool. Last couple of really quick things is when a customer makes a payment, right? Whether paying an invoice or whatever, does that show up in conversations that they made the payment? I assume it does.
I mean, the thank you message on invoice, like there's an automatic thank you message on invoices shows up in conversations, but like conversations doesn't report any activity. But you know, like that's going to be on the contact level in the little activity thread. But if I'm not mistaken, there is an automatically generated thank you message or like invoice paid message that comes out after invoice payment. I just can't remember if it's email and SMS channels or only email channel.
Got it. Okay. I assume it'd be the
If
same
it is
thing
on
for-
the email channel though, you can always trigger in a workflow on invoice. You know, trigger type would be invoice paid, and then you could do like a manual SMS. Thank you. And also whenever you use the invoice trigger types and workflows, like invoice paid, the invoice payload will pull into the workflow. So what I mean by that is like you'll get that little packet of information when you go into like send messages and workflows, and you know how you go to add any of the variables and you have the contact variables and the just now variables and all that. So like if you use an invoice trigger type, you'll have an invoice variable in there that will then show up and have some different options where you can pull in like the invoice total and like other attributes of the invoice. So.
Got it. And that would be for the most recent invoice, right? Like, because obviously if a customer pays multiple invoices, you can distinct the most recent one. I assume it automatically pulls.
Yeah, I mean, since that's a trigger in a workflow, like every time that event occurs, like that workflow is going to run.
Right.
So if you have multiple, if you allow like multiple reentries, then on every single invoice payment, like you get another event in that workflow. So if the contact pays 3 times, like they're getting 3 text messages back to back, you know, with each invoice that they just paid.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. And then for activities, that applies for payments and appointments, right? I assume both of those you can see the activity for a customer or a contact.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, like pretty much any money handling shows up in activities on contacts, like checkouts, invoice payments, appointment bookings also do show up. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. All right. And then whenever we get, so it's kind of like a 2-part question. Whenever someone like leaves a review, right? It shows up in the conversations tab. However, is there any way to actually link that to a contact so you can specifically see that contact left a review for you?
Not right now, unfortunately. There's no trigger available in workflows right now for like a successful review. Which I have felt like is a miss for a long time. They need to have that
For
in there.
sure.
It's already showing up in the replies, you know, in the dashboard. So I wouldn't imagine it would be too much further to make that available as a workflow trigger. But yeah, not right now. So right now, like on our products, for example, the furthest we can go is like somebody clicked on a trigger link to go out to the review platform to leave the review, so we can see that like at least they clicked, and that's like a relatively high indicator that probably a review was left. But not necessarily. I mean, some people click all the time and then don't do anything afterwards. So, but that's the furthest we could take it right now.
Gotcha. And then this is the last part to it. In terms of merging contacts, right? So let's say, you know, someone messages you on Instagram, but you also have, you know, their email and phone number and, you know, their contact essentially duplicates. So in terms of merging them from different platforms and channels, I assume, I mean, there's no way to do it unless you manually do it, right? Just because there's no way of the system knowing. But in terms of, is there anything in HighLevel for any, I guess, contacts that it picks up as duplicates itself? So when you can auto merge them like at scale versus having to individually merge duplicate records?
Well, so there's a difference between like adding additional information to the contact object and trying to merge 2 completely different contact objects. And so what I mean by that is like HighLevel uses email and phone as the primary keys for relationship's sake. So what I mean is like if you have one contact that has one email address, and then the exact same person that happened to give you a different email address another time they were talking with you, now you actually do have 2 separate contacts. And that does require a manual reconciliation and merge, you know, through the contact view, because you have to select like which email is the primary, you know, that I want on the contact record, like which phone number do I want to retain, which email. And so that can be done, but
Does it automatically flag where it finds like instances of that though? Because from what I've seen, there is nothing there. Like you have to literally be aware of potentially like when you're searching that contact that you may have, you know, 2 records for them rather than it automatically showing like, hey, these are, you know, potential duplicates.
It's a
Can you
problem.
review them?
It's a problem. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off. I just had a conversation with Sid and Shivam on this, because I'm in the B2B space. And what's happening is everybody that I add as a contact has the same phone number, because it's the number belongs to the building, right? And all employees work in the building. So you got to turn that off if you're in that situation, because that's a mess. And then the other problem is when people fill out forms, they don't type the company names the same all the time, right? Could be like Wasserman Auto Service or Wasserman, maintenance service or whatever. And then it creates two companies in there because they need to queue that off of the domain in the email, right? So if I put my email address in and after the @ sign is, gohighlevel.com, then everybody who has that gohighlevel.com should be linked together to a company. But then you have multiple companies and then they're linked. This guy's linked to this entry he made. This one's linked to this one. It's kind of
That's especially a disaster there. Yeah.
it's kind of a mess. I'm in the B2B space. It's killing me. It's killing me. Now,
Yeah,
so I
the
don't know if
only
you-
way, like we run into it all the time, because agencies change their names, like like it's just a different day with a different a different breakfast order for that day. And so new emails, new websites, new all that, and so the only thing we can really do is like search by first and last name, but that's pretty dicey, because like especially if it's a common name, like
Yeah.
how many Bruce Joneses does somebody have in their database, and so it is a bit of a challenge. But specifically to your point about so somebody can roll in on Facebook or Instagram without an email or phone number associated with them, and they're just going to be a name. And one of the things you can do to help with that situation is to immediately solicit for like an email address or a phone number, because specifically on Facebook, for example, Facebook Messenger, you have like one automated response that you can send because of Facebook's like regulations on sending messages back and stuff like that. And so you have one opportunity to basically like get their email and phone number like right then and there. And if they happen to give it to you either in the message thread, like if you want to try to set up like really particular triggers that are listening for message types, like you can technically update a custom field in workflow. So if somebody gives you a phone number, you can try to go set the phone number field or try to go set the email field, and basically that will kind of automatically link those two records together. Sometimes setting the field automatically is hard because you'll ask people like what's your phone number, and their reply will be like, yeah, thank you for like, yeah, absolutely, I'd be happy to give you my phone number, and then they give you the phone number. And so it's like we didn't just get a number back, we got like a whole string. And HighLevel doesn't have a parser right now. If you had a parser, then you could parse out the phone number and then set the field. So that it's better to typically send them to a link to like update their, like to add their contact information or something like that. And because of that, it always ends up being good to like for there to be some kind of like lead magnet or something sitting on the front end that helps. What you're really trying to do is just like get their contact information. So, but you can do it then. You can auto set the field, when you get the information, or you can send them like a form link, and then once HighLevel knows like, oh, this is that phone number, that email address, then they all become the same record from there. So as long as you have it set, in HighLevel, there's a setting you have to enable to like, I forget what they call it, but it's essentially like an auto merge contacts with different names or different somehow like auto merge. Here, let me just look and see what it is. I totally forget what it's called.
Merge Facebook contacts by name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I see that.
Where is that setting?
It's also in
It's
business
in the
info.
business profile settings.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, it's interesting to me because like for example, I don't know if any of you guys have used like Square, but this is just from a general aspect. Like with Square, if it does end up, if two contacts end up having similar information, like a same email or phone number at all, then a little like there's like a little section, or I guess, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, like notification that says, hey, like there's 10 potential duplicates here, like review them. And then you can go and like review them at bulk or at scale to say, hey, like, which information or which contact record do we want? So I'm surprised that HighLevel doesn't have, at least at the minimum, something like basic like that, just to identify those, potential duplicates and review them and quickly do it.
We should have a, if there's not already an idea in the backlog. In high level for on the candy board, we should all put one in and all upvote it. Cause I would love for that. If you're looking at, I mean, you know, when you go, if you ever do manually merge a contact, you know, it'll show you like all the attributes of the contact side by side and you can pick, you know. And if we were to take like both of those sets of data and feed it into ChatGPT, but you know, we were to give it like 100 versions of that, it's not like a huge problem for AI to be able to look across all of those and say like, you know, these appear to be duplicates. I've handed that to ChatGPT before, like a dozen times, like 100, 200 records of like whatever pieces of data, where literally there was only like one attribute different between them, and said like find all the duplicates in all of these rows, and it does it like a champion, you know. So all that to say, like that would be a great opportunity for high level to put some. That's another AI tool that they could use, you know, in platform for that.
I just merged one while you were telling your story, Rob, just now. And the interesting thing on that one was in the two records, I had two different phone numbers, right? Because again, one could be a business work number, one could be a cell number, could be a home number, you don't know. And unfortunately, there's no way to merge those because right now there's only one phone field, even though you can tag, you know, you can label the field, but you can't upload to the field. You can't, you know, it's just the label, it doesn't do anything. So if you merge it, I just lost one of the phone numbers. I don't know if I lost the right one or the wrong one, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the problem. So there's a lot of stuff on the CRM and especially on B2B side that's problematic, but I'm not going to go there because I have a bad reputation with that.
I have a question a little bit off topic. Does anyone know? I wasn't on my computer. I was on my phone whenever the chat was going on, and then I just switched to my computer. What I was trying to get was Charles's conversation flow for AI. Can somebody copy that or download that and repost it back in the chat so I can move it to my computer? Or is there a way I can do that? Because it's not showing previous chats.
Yeah, I can add it. I downloaded both of them. I'll just add them both.
Yeah, because I guess when you come on after the fact, it doesn't show you all the previous chats.
Well, it's not a Word doc, it was just an image, right?
Yeah, for some reason, I guess because it was a PNG.
Oh shoot, that was the wrong one.
Yeah, it's a PNG. Yeah, it's too bad if it was a Word doc, you could have just used it. Yeah.
I'm trying to find it. I sent the wrong image on the most recent one. Let me see if I can. I'll just re-download it at the top here. Save that one. Save this one. There we go. All right, guys. Should probably shut it down for today. Sitting at 90 minutes.
Want to learn Go High Level in a structured format? Check out the GHLacademy.com by Extendly. We guarantee to save you 6 months of wasted subscription costs for High Level. Just visit the GHLacademy.com.